Sailor Earth Ernest here, and today I'm going to talk about something I think should be talked about. Well, at least I might find interesting. Okay, so you know that rule that says only girls can be warriors? Well, it's translated into it's interpreted. Now, in Sailor Moon, NAOKO Takeuchi came up with the rule. I don't really know if it's the actual rule, but she came up saying only girls can be senjis. And well, that's the Asian, Japanese word for it. The European, Italic, French Outlander word for it would be soldier, but the European, Germanic, English word for it would be warrior. Now, regardless of those two Outlander words being used, there seems to be people who interpret it a certain way. Now, fan fiction or made up stories that don't have to follow it. Now, people are going to argue and say, well, how come the fraudulent moving shows and the song shows, the moving game, and also how come the Farseer show had to stick to it? Now, since they were actually based it off of Sailor Moon and, well, different Sandra's versions of it, Sandra's Sailor Moon takes, they had to try at least stay loyal to that rule. That's the reason why, for example, in Sailor Moon Sailor Stars, the 5th season, the Sailor Starlights, two of them were male, but when they transformed, they had to become female and get female body parts. At least that probably explained why it was never never dubbed. At least not at that time. Now, regardless of the Sailor Starlights, 2 being male, 1 being female, that's a different story from day. Now, a lot of people have claimed that people have to follow this rule. Now, first off, if you're doing fan fiction, or if you're doing a follower story, if you are doing something on YouTube like this, then you don't have to follow it. Yeah, I'm not using the actual material from Toei or anything like that, or NAOKO Takeuchi, so I don't have to worry about following the rules. And plus, I think the rule can be broken. You know, anyone can be a Sailor Warrior. Alright? You see, everything we do on our YouTube channel, everything we did in our follower sagas or follower stories, is certainly not officially adapting Sailor Moon. So we don't have to stay loyal to it in that particular area. Now, there are going to be people out there who think that you have to. That even fan fiction has to. No, fan fiction doesn't have to. And as far as the rules concerned, yeah, if you were Toei, or you were Deke, or you were Pioneer, or you were Viz, and you didn't follow this rule, yeah, you'd get in trouble since you had to stay loyal to the actual stuff that you were working with. But as far as fan fiction was concerned, really didn't have to. You could do what you wanted. Now, a lot of people interpret this rule to explain why there's only female Sailor Warriors. That's one interpretation. I think that was one of the first interpretations, that the reason could only be Sailor Warriors implied that this was the reason why only they had their powers. You know, since they were women and they were reincarnated from their previous lives. I think that might be one interpretation. But then another interpretation came up, and no one ever really asked NAOKO Takeuchi which one of the interpretations she was going with. Another interpretation implied that meant Another interpretation implied that only women could be Sailor Warriors. And that men could not. Now, I don't know if that's the actual interpretation, but would say that it was the interpretation. That would be at least okay. It's her thing. NAOKO TAKEUCHI made it up so she can make up the rules that go along with it. But I don't know if that's the actual interpretation. I think interpretation to be holding, number one, would be that this explains why they had the powers since they were women and they were reincarnated from their previous lives. I don't know which interpretation is the actual interpretation. People always, will argue over what NAOKO TAKEUCHI meant, but unless someone actually asks her herself what she actually meant, there's always going to be the beholdings. Now, in my win, I believe anybody can be a sailor warrior, and gender doesn't have to play a role. Look at me, I'm a sailor warrior, I'm Sailor Earth. Even so, some people are going to argue about Sailor Earth and Sailor Moon, of course, but that's a whole different underwarp for another day. Sorry for that burp. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm Sailor Earth Ernest. Hope you enjoyed this movie show. Know what I mean?